welcome back. Today's objective is going to be Vort of the Boreal Valley. But first, let's do some brief exploration.
A pleasure to make thine acquaintance, Ashen One.
Thank you.
I am but a humble handmaid of the shrine. Weapons, armor, trinkets, and spells. I've lots of little things to ease the burden of a weary traveler. And yes, I'm undead too, but not so charitable as to give my goods away. Ashen One, fetch souls and bring them to me. As is thy wont, no?
So, an interesting thing about the way matchmaking works in this is it goes back to the way it was done in Dark Souls 1, roughly, with a little bit of difference.
Ashen One, be sure to bring more souls.
So it's based on your level, but also on your weapons level that you have raised it to. So a good way of making it so you never get invaded if it's your first playthrough, if you're a massive, fearful person of PvP, is to meet our friend here, Andre the Small Giant.
Well, a newcomer, I see. I am Andre. I serve at this shrine as a humble smith, forging weapons. You're in search of the Lords of Cinder, I trust. A toilsome journey, I wager. You require good arms. Let me smith you weapons. I am a smith. Such is my purpose.
Now, he no longer sells weapons, but he is the person that you go to, as opposed to in Dark 2, where you would go to the Firekeeper to strengthen your Estus. You not only strengthen your Estus, but you can change the amount that you want to have at him. But yes, if you don't want to ever be invaded on your first playthrough, do your best to dump all of your weapon upgrade items into one weapon. And if you get it to plus 10, the odds of you being invaded on a new game, as opposed to New Game Plus, are exceptionally slim. And if you find the right ash...
But be careful. I don't want to see my work squandered.
If you find the right ash, the handmaiden gets new wares. And one of the new wares that she can get are Titanite and Large Titanite. Meaning that you'll be able to upgrade with a lot easier ability. Down there is where the first Pyromancer sits, if you get him. There's also a Thief Gentleman that sits over there, if you get him. He will gain more items to sell to you if you make him steal, basically. Although, if you do it too often, or in the wrong way, he can get caught and murdered. Down here, we also have a back passageway, where if we had met Yol of Londor, Londo, Yol would be standing here. And he teaches you some sorceries, but his secondary purpose is to be the standing point between the two different endings, depending on how you interact with him, you'll get either the Link the Flame or Dark Lord endings, similarly to other Dark Souls, but slightly different path to travel, because in the other ones it was mostly just go fight the boss and then leave or don't leave.
Ah, another one roused from the sleep of death. Well, you're not alone. We unkindled are worthless. Can't even die right. Gives me conniptions. And they'd have us seek the Lords of Cinder and return them to their moulding thrones. But we're talking true legends with the metal to link the fire. We're not fit to lick their boots. Don't you think?
Speak for yourself. There is also a top area. However, the top area is mostly cordoned off until you buy that key that's 20,000 souls from the Handmaiden. There's also another NPC that will appear there. And this is the Tree of Giants. If you examine its feet, every now and again, a seed of the Tree of Giants will fall down. Now, the seed of the Tree of Giants is arguably the best item in the game. It was the thing I would always pick as a starting item in Dark Souls 2. But it can't open this because it's locked. And the reason that I would do that is because if you get invaded, it makes it so that the NPCs also target the invader, as opposed to just targeting you. Because if you invade, you're invisible to the NPCs. And it's not something you can use very often, obviously. But if you're being triple invaded and none of your sentinels are coming to join you, it's a good thing to have, the NPCs surprise people. Also, the way covenants work in this is slightly different. Instead of it being that you have to physically go to the covenant, you go to the covenant, speak to the person, and they give you an item that you equip. And whilst that item is equipped, all subsequent PvP work will count towards them, the credit that they award you. But I digress. Enough exposition. Let us be on our way. Immediately as we spawn into the new area, if you look behind yourself, this item would have high amounts of significance for somebody who has played Dark Souls 1. That is the Lord Vessel. Or, it certainly looks a lot like the Lord Vessel, which was the thing that you used to hold the souls of the great souls, so that you would be able to get into the end battle in Dark Souls 1. I don't remember what actual significance it has aside from it being, a cool item. And that up there is Castle Lothric. This is the wall of Lothric that we are on now. And immediately you get a bonfire. The reason for this, and the reason a lot of people are confused, is because as soon as you light this bonfire, you cannot travel to the place that you just went to. That being there, being a thing to summon you in, was literally just as a zoning purpose. And once you've used it once, it's no longer accessible. They were trying to go for a more Demon Souls approach to the way this game works. And a lot of people are very confused by it. And I can see why. I will not go this way yet. Also to note, one of the most commonly overlooked items in your first run, or commonly overlooked in general, until you come back later, is if you look up there, right above where my head is, there's an item up there. Let's go get it. The reason I'm killing specifically those ones is because those ones were the ones that would actually get hostile. This gentleman here, I don't know if he's actually got a name, but I just refer to him as the Crier, because what he does is he screams and he makes non-hostile creatures hostile, or they aggro at a larger range than they normally would, at the very least. This is a dead dragon, but we will soon see one that is not dead. There's also a gentleman here who would transform. Oh no, it wasn't here. It was on the other landing over there. My bad. But this gentleman makes 4 people all aggro on you at once, and it's quite obnoxious. Please stop. Thank you. These are the binoculars. And I think perhaps they used to be one of the strongest items in any Dark Souls game. And unfortunately they have received severe nerfs due to this. The way that they work now is their animation takes so long, and you can't walk while you're looking through them. So any previous combat usage that you had with them is pretty much null. They're not even really worth having on your quick bar in this game, unless you're going 100% for the aesthetic approach. Alright, let's continue. There's a gentleman hiding behind those boxes. He thinks he's clever. There's also a gentleman down here moping. That item, well, it wasn't my first of that item type. I should probably go into it now. There are different ways that you can imbue weapons. Oh, it was. Great. There are different ways that you can imbue weapons with different properties. Let's see. I'm trying to remember all of them. Raw weapons, as it says in the description, they are physically stronger, but they lose their scaling. So it's typically a good idea to either use it on an item that already doesn't scale, or on something that has really terrible scaling, like never gets above D scaling. Typically weapons that you have and you actually want to upgrade are going to be B or higher, so I'm not going to be upgrading this longsword, but it will certainly serve its purpose in the meantime. Goodness. My timing is impeccable. Also, I could have grabbed a longbow from that other tower, but it doesn't come with enough arrows for it to really be useful unless you actually go all the way back to the Firelink Shrine and purchase more arrows. The Handmaiden sells you infinite of the basic arrows, which are wooden arrows in this situation. This gentleman really does not like me. It's unfortunate. Remember that live dragon I was telling you about? There it is. For those of you who wanted an early two-hand sword, the Claymore is that item right above that statue's head. Also, there is a club right here, which I will grab. Two. Oh. 1, 2. Now. Now there is also a multiple different damage types system in this game. What used to be slashing is now referred to as standard. There is also thrusting weapons, strike weapons, which are blunt weapons, and strike is a weapon type that makes it so that you do additional damage to heavily armored units. So I, for instance, would take extra damage from not only strike, but also lightning. Not because I'm a dragon, but because I'm wearing metal. This right here is a mimic. There's an item that exists in the game that has never actually been explained properly. That is an item that used to be referred to as Lloyd's Talisman. I think it's now the Hunter's Talisman or something along those lines. And if you throw them at mimics, they do not aggro. In this, it is the most... It is the most clearly depicted that they're not going to aggro in this Dark Souls, because they are actually sleeping. Now, the ways that you can usually tell whether or not something is a mimic is obviously this mimic is moving. Secondly, I've heard that they have a padlock, but they seem not to. Thirdly, it's whether or not the chain is coiled. And this chain is straight for the most part. Like it's pointed downward. I can get to another chest later and show you the difference of the chains. First things first, though. Before I fight this mimic, I've got some pathing to unlock. This gentleman knight hasn't got the memo that there is a dragon outside. And that's the second bonfire of Lothric, High Wall Lothric. From here you would actually be able to use a bow to get rid of the dragon if you no longer wish to use it for soul gathering. I believe it drops you a piece of Titanite, like a twinkling Titanite, and then it makes the roof of that area accessible, and I think there was a crystal lizard or something there. I could be wrong on both those counts. But from there you can actually take out the dragon with the bow. I may not actually have enough time in this episode to get to Vort because of how long I took for exposition. But that's okay. There's always more time. There's usually a gentleman standing here throwing knives at you. And I guess he moved over here. Oh, because I didn't sit, it didn't reset the enemy patterns. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Excuse me. Would you please not do this right now? I may die. Again. Nope. Ouch. Alright. That was a sword that took me about 45 minutes to grind for last time, and I've gotten it on my first attempt. Excellent. I will actually be taking a short break here. Alright. Sorry about that. I have returned. Now, let us try and fight Vort of the Boreal Valley. That is the correct path. That is the dragon murdering things for me. Excuse me. There's a gentleman here who will try and trap you. Those are explosive barrels, and he throws firebombs. That's a simple way around it. Also, he appears to have died. Huh. That is a decent guard break weapon. I will not be using it. And this is where you get the thief if you have the cell key. If I recall correctly, he sells a unique set, and his basic gear that he starts out with isn't particularly wonderful, but the first time you get him to steal and he comes back safely, he has one of the more well-stat, rounded-out, curved swords that you can get. So it's worth doing. It does actually take slight game progression for him to finish his stealing. So if you get him early and then fight a boss, you'll be able to get the sword earlier. It does still cost money, though. Alright then. There's a guy who tries to climb up over here. And a guy who tries to climb up over here. I'm bad at video games. I got Goomba stomped. I thought there was a third one. There is a... no. Those guys aren't hostile. My bad. Just checking my stuff. Stop. This man, the man without a shirt who is worshipping, is one of the units who can transform. So if you run and kill him before he can, it makes the fight a lot easier. If you let him transform, you get I believe, a Titanite off of him if he actually fully transforms first. Also, the way that the bugs, or the crystal lizards, work in this is they're a lot easier to get, because if you hit them, it stops them from teleporting. And also, even if they go off a cliff, you still receive their item. You don't have to manually loot them for it to go into your inventory. I might double back for that bow, but it's not a big deal right now. For those of you who don't have a 100% physical reduction shield, and if you would like one, there is one inside that library that I will come back to after I've murdered these gentlemen. Also, if you want to rush to the earliest upgrade for your Estus, there is an Estus Flash Shard down through the depths of this library. That's a thing. That guy has a great shield, which is a rare drop. That is what the Lloyd's Talismans translate to, the Undead Hunter Charm. And like I said, it never actually explains it anywhere. But if you are to encounter a Mimic, it is the item that you can use to open them without them being hostile. These guys still give me trouble. They're not like the Destroyer of Worlds or anything, but they're really annoying to get behind, as you can clearly see. I should have got him there, but I was itching my face. I should also really hotbar those fire bombs, since now they are no longer a limited consumable. I can buy them at the Handmaiden. But they aren't as priceless as they used to be. They're still a very good item, though. Like I said, his shield's a rare drop. There's a path that away. I struggle to remember what's over there. I'll get over there shortly. The broadsword is a strict upgrade over the longsword. It has the same requirements for wielding, scales better, does more damage, and has higher durability. There's no reason not to use it if you're using a longsword. Well, unless you don't like the moveset, but the moveset is the same. Oh, wait. It doesn't have a thrust attack. So if you value the thrust attack, stick with the straight sword, I guess. But for the 10 damage upgrade, I'll take the broadsword. Now, like I was saying, if you wanted the 100% physical reduction shield, as you did not have a starting class that starts with one, there's one in this chest. And as you can see, the chain is coiled, which is how you can tell it's not a mimic. The problem is, if you get too close and if you don't attack properly, you can hit the chest, and if you hit it too hard, it breaks what's inside. This is the Silver Eagle Kite Shield. And just so you can see, 100% physical absorption. Slightly less magic than my current shield. Slightly worse fire reduction, slightly worse lightning reduction, slightly worse dark reduction, and slightly worse stability. But better physical attack power if you wanted to do a riposte, or just smack people with your shield, which I don't recall doing actual damage. I am so good at video games. But yeah, it's definitely a good shield to have if you hadn't already had a 100% physical reduction shield. That is an Estus Flask Shard, meaning you'll be able to have an additional Estus Flask if you obtain it and bring it back to Andre, the small giant. This man with the halberd is probably the biggest threat in this room, aside from the dog itself. The guy with the great axe does lots of damage, but he's easily avoidable. This guy can stun lock you. Luckily, you can get a plunging attack on him. I'm just bad at video games. Come on. Alright, fine. If you want to be that way. I don't appreciate the way that you are as a human being. And I would like for you to stop what you're doing immediately. Thank you. There's also another man down the stairs trying to wait and ambush you. Oh, of course not. Why would I be able to change equipment? Apparently you can't change equipment while locked on. Good to know. Thought there was something out here, but I guess not. That man, you don't get his set until way later in the game. He's just sort of here to taunt you about the fact that you can't have his gear. He also does exceptionally good damage. Oh, it's a dog. Whoops. Sorry, dog. I thought you were a man. And And for some odd reason, the dog's attack hitbox is above your shield. So it usually hits you in the face over your shield. It's kind of crazy. If there's any elevation differences, like it can be... Oh, I couldn't show it off. Like, that step down is enough that the dog's elevation would be enough to hit you. Why do I still have a name on? Eh, whatever. It doesn't change much. Oh. Stamina recovery. Stamina recovery. I almost said reduction, but I meant to say rejuvenation, and then it came out very good. English 101. Right then, we have exhausted this area's usefulness. Let us move on. Did I already get this? I did not. Black fire bombs do more damage than normal fire bombs, but would normally cost more to purchase. I said I did not purchase those. There's also a layer here where you can sometimes encounter enemies. It's kind of weird. There's this man off the cliff. Also, if you're looking for a rapier class weapon, this is the earliest place you can get one of those. His vision isn't too great. Poor guy. I know how that feels. Although if you take the rapier, you will also aggro Batman. And then there's something here that aggroes somebody else too, if I recall correctly. Looks like I'm wrong. Oh well. And then you go this way to open yourself up a shortcut. You can get swarmed by these guys relatively easily, or you could just be a massive coward like me and run away. Sometimes a tactical withdrawal is necessary, because it means you get to survive to open up a shortcut. Now that this is open, the first bonfire is actually the quicker route to the boss than the second one. I've been trying to work on my parrying, and I'm really happy that I actually managed to pull that off. Not that he's particularly hard to parry. It's probably one of the easiest early things to parry. But that's just goes to show how bad my parrying was. Bye. He died. Drop anything, buddy? You did. Okay. Oh, I was lied to. It was just the glow of the area that made me think that there was a man who had fallen down and dropped an item. This is probably the most common area that people get confused by and think it's an elusive wall. And I can definitely see why. There's some texture issues here. But I don't think it is. Either that or I forget how to open them. Well, I intended to fight Vort. Looks like that may not happen in this episode. Apologies. But I'd like to keep my episodes less than 3 hours to upload. So I will be showing him off in the next episode. Oh, come on. Yeah, this is how quick that shortcut is. It's right there from here. Pretty good. Alright then. I shall see you all in the next part.